Welcome to Ear Biscuits. I'm Rhett.
And I'm Link. Joining us today at the round table of dim lighting is no one. It's just
each
two
other.
of us.
We're joining each other.
Joining us today is no one. But our voices, the voices of Rhett's and mine, are joining your ears in a biscuit that hang around.
Yeah, just hang around.
Don't
Find
leave,
out what it's about.
Don't leave just because nobody's here. We're following up last month's Rhett Link-only.
Hey, that's my new podcast.
This is such a great start.
Rhett only.
Last month's Rhett Link-only ear biscuit.
You left
with
your
name
out of a phrase. I
so
want to let
defaced.
you know. You should probably take that as you should probably see that as a sign of like humility that you tried to say a sentence with your name in it and you left your name out. I think that's a great thing. You should be proud of that. You should do that more often. You should take your name out of more sentences.
I'm very humble. Yeah, I think it's a Southern thing to mispronounce the word humble.
Yeah,
with a silent H. Anyway, what I was trying to get at was we received feedback from you guys that you enjoyed the ear biscuit we did about bizarre experiments about a month ago.
Yeah, thanks for enjoying that.
And so
it was an experiment to see if you would enjoy it.
And now we've gotten your feedback, and you guys said, "Hey, let's do it again, or do another Rhett Link-only ear biscuit that's kind of topical, kind of GMM-ish."
Yeah.
So that's what we're going to do today.
And I will say, I did see a few comments. People were like, "I really enjoyed that ear biscuit where you guys talked about the experiments. It was kind of like an extended GMM, but I want you guys to keep doing stuff where you tell stories and talk about your lives and." Not that we're not going to do that again at some point, but just so you know, there is a finite amount of things that we can say about ourselves that we haven't already said in some form. We've done almost 700 episodes of Good Mythical Morning, if you've seen that show. Because
we're no longer living our lives. We're just making entertainment, so we no longer
we don't generate stories anymore. You got that's what Link is saying. We don't generate news. Well, not nearly at the pace. So anyway,
well, I will say I've got a story from our past that's embedded in one of the topics that I'm going to bring up today.
As do I.
So there you go.
Have a little anecdotal stuff.
Live a little anecdote in there.
But this is today. What we're going to be talking about is some of the most intense rites of passage from cultures around the world, past and present, and we're going to be focusing on what different cultures see as ways for boys to become men. Now, there's also rites of passage out there for women, but you know what? We're men who were once boys. We like to think of ourselves as men. After reading about some of these different rites of passage, I question whether or not I'm actually a man.
I like to think of myself as a
man boy?
A boy trapped in a man's body.
A man child.
Which is, I think that's better than a man trapped in a boy's body.
Yeah.
That would be extremely frustrating.
Yeah, definitely.
And doesn't sound appropriate or shouldn't be spoken of.
Yeah, you should have just taken it right back. But we're going to be going through some of the ones that were the most intense to us that we will we hope that you will enjoy. And as it was the case with the previous podcast, the Rhett Link-only podcast, it may get a little intense. I don't think it's as intense as like shocking corpses to like animate them in front of crowds. I don't think it gets that intense.
But it could.
It might. You never know what's going to happen.
So let's see. And I will commit that there will not be any boys to men R&B jokes.
Well, that was the one. You just made it.
Yeah, it was kind of like a self-referential
I won't sing Mama. I won't sing that.
That's the one you're going to choose? I don't. Is that boys to men?
That's what makes it funny, man. I didn't say the end of the road. I didn't sing the end of the road you know.
I think you making that joke signifies you're at the end of the road.
Okay.
Okay, so let's get into some rites of passages in just a second. But first, we want to mention our sponsor, EF College Break. They make travel easy, affordable, and even more fun for anyone 18 to 28 years old, college not required.
Traveling around the world is one of the best things you can do for yourself, especially when you're young, 18 to 28. You know, it can change your life. These are the experiences you're gonna have that you're gonna remember for the rest of your life. But it's logistically difficult. To travel right and to experience a place fully, you have to plan a whole bunch. Not just flights, not just lodging, not just transportation, but you gotta figure out where to go, what to see, when to see it, what's cool to see, what should I avoid. And when you plan your own trip, you do all that yourself.
Or you could let the EF College Break expert travelers do all of that for you. Why let them do it? because it's their job. Trust me, you don't want to invest the time and effort to do it half as well as they can. They take care of booking flights, lodging, transportation while you're there, site and event coordination, and provide you with a tour director who is a local expert. I have to say local expert in some sort of random accent. Okay. I don't know why.
Well, it's about travel, I guess.
They've built group trips across 6 continents with everything from trekking Machu Picchu, cruising the Greek Isles, and immersing yourself in Germany's Oktoberfest. And almost half of college break travelers sign up solo. So even if you sign up by yourself, you'll not be traveling alone on your trip.
And not only will you not be alone, you're going to meet new people, potentially make lifelong friends by sharing a travel experience with somebody. And it doesn't have to be intimidating to plan a trip like this outside of the country, and EF College Break makes it possible.
So what are you waiting for? This is your chance to take that Euro trip you've always wanted. How does that sound? 11 days checking out Berlin's nightlife, Prague's Gothic atmosphere, and Munich's old world charm? Sounds pretty great to me.
But you can't go, Link. You're not 18 to 28. Need I remind you? You are a man now. You're not a boy anymore.
But I'm a boy in a man's suit, in a man's shell. I'm in the shell of a man. If you are 18 to 28, we're gonna hook you up with an extra $100 off your next adventure by going to our special URL, efcollegebreak.com/Rhett-and-Link.
Again, $100 off, go to efcollegebreak.com/Rhett-and-Link.
We'd also like to mention Casper mattresses, obsessively engineered American-made mattresses at a shockingly fair price.
You spend about a third of your life sleeping if you're normal, and you better make sure you're doing it on a good mattress.
Well, then I'm super normal, because I think I sleep a little bit more.
I think you might do 50%.
Casper brings 2 comfy technologies together for better nights and brighter days: latex foam and memory foam. So they've got just the right sink and just the right bounce, which interestingly enough is how they describe me at the club.
Oh, he's got the right sink and the right bounce. They also have a risk-free trial and return policy. They deliver it straight to you. You try it for 100 days. If you're not happy with it, they come and pick it up. It's pretty cool. This is, they just sent one to me. And I gotta say, this is the most trouble-free mattress experience I have ever had.
Well, even the unpacking of the mattress, because it like comes packaged, is an event in and of itself. I should have been there.
It comes out like a snake.
Or like a Jack-in-the-Box.
Or like a dinosaur that you put into one of those, like a tablet that turns into a dinosaur that keeps getting bigger.
But okay, 2 things to note there. A snake slither, and it didn't slither out of the box.
It didn't.
It just kind of expanded. But it's
also very satisfying.
Second thing to note is you don't dip the mattress in water in order to get it to expand. It just does it
came from
on
me.
its own.
I'm at the very beginning of my 100 days, but let me tell you, I don't think they're gonna be coming to get this one from me.
It's $500 for a twin size mattress, $950 for king size. Compare that to industry averages, it's an outstanding price point.
And now you can get $50 off any mattress purchased by going to casper.com/Rhett-and-Link and using code Rhett-and-Link.
Casper.com/Rhett-and-Link, offer code Rhett-and-Link. Now, on to the biscuit.
I used to go dove hunting with my father and my brother growing up.
I was never invited. I do remember you coming to school and telling me about...
We didn't trust you with a gun, but...
and I still don't.
And I will say, and this may be a difficult thing for many of you who didn't grow up in the South in the 80s to, relate to this, but when I was about 10 years old, which is older than my oldest son now, I had a shotgun in my hands and I was responsible for shooting birds out of the air. So I would go out with my brother and my dad, and that was a pretty big deal to me to think, and especially as I think about it now, I think about giving that responsibility to Locke. Like we don't hunt as a family now, but to think that I kind of felt like I was a man, but I had a very powerful machine and I was shooting a bird of peace out of the air.
Sounds a little ironic.
Right, it's not really that hard to do.
But did you consider it a rite of passage? Maybe you didn't use those terms.
I did feel like a man, but I think I would have felt different if I had been faced with what the Maasai tribe has to face, and this is not hunting dove with a gun. This is hunting a lion with a spear. By yourself.
By yourself?
Yeah. Now, I will say, spoiler alert, probably an incorrect use of the term at this point. They don't do this anymore because of government restrictions on lion hunting. The lion population isn't what it used to be.
That sounds like a good thing.
But let's
for everyone involved.
Let's go back to whenever this was still a legal thing. They would send a boy out with a spear.
Wow.
And you had to kill a lion. Have you seen a lion? Have you you've been to the zoo? You've seen a lion.
Yes, Rhett, I have. I've seen many lions in many different screens
and
some in person.
They're always kind of sleeping at the zoo, and they're also hard to see at the zoo.
But I wouldn't
They're
want
always
to
behind like the rock, sleeping.
I wouldn't want to have to sneak around that rock with a stick with just something pointy on the end and think I was going to win this scenario on the other side.
Well, this was no zoo. This was just the plains. I've seen there's a YouTube video of a guy, like a really old video, and one of those dudes dressed up in like a classic, like colonial, jungle suit, and he's shooting a lion with a gun that's charging him, like a high-powered rifle.
You mean like a safari suit?
Like a safari suit.
Not a colonial suit.
Whatever.
I pictured a pilgrim in the savannah.
You know what I'm talking about, like the colonial times, like the way that the guys would go out and like colonize like other places, but I was thinking a safari suit. And he kills this lion with a gun, and it's crazy. But he had a gun again. These dudes had a spear, and they were a boy. They were a boy when they went out. It's like sending Locke out there with a spear and saying, "Come back, and I want you to have killed a lion." And
they did it.
They did it. This would not have continued to be a rite of passage for many years. Apparently, they were relatively successful because this is how you become a man. And this is back in the day when there were a lot of lions, and so this wasn't thinning out the population. Now the way they do it is they send people out in groups of 10, and you can come back with. Basically the government
just hair from a lion. You don't have to actually kill the lion.
Well, no,
just like trim a little hair off the lion's mane, and that'll count.
Well, no, the lions are protected. It doesn't mean that they can't kill them. It just means that they have to only kill a certain number of them. And so they send them out in groups of 10. And the guy who actually is the one who successfully spears the lion, who throws the first spear that kills the lion.
Okay.
So, because there's YouTube videos of this happening, of like multiple dudes like going up and killing a lion in crazy intense videos. But the first guy throws the spear and kills the lion. He gets to wear the lion's mane as a prize trophy, and he officially becomes a man. But they kind of understand, listen, we can't.
I wanna be your main man.
No, everybody can't kill a lion. And so I guess it isn't that not everyone is a man. It's just that the dude who actually is the one to do it.
He's the main man.
He's the main man, exactly.
I don't even know if I don't even want to watch a video of that, but I certainly would respect any 10 or 12 or 13-year-old who had speared a lion. I mean, that garners a lot of respect from me. For what that's worth, I don't know. Maybe we can move on to bulls?
Yeah.
I got some bulls here.
Go for it.
Jumping over bulls, and this one gets even better. While completely naked. Now, this is a rite of passage that I read about, performed by men of the Hamar tribe of southern Ethiopia before they are allowed to get married, okay? So if you really want to get married, you gotta line some bulls up and you gotta get naked. Now, as with a lot of these rite of passage ceremonies, just picture it's a big deal for everyone who lives in your town or village or whatever you want to call it. And not only that, but you've got family members and friends coming from far off other villages to come in to witness this rite of passage.
You get naked.
The thing that strikes me is, first of all, the pressure associated with something like this. I mean, culturally it's set up that every year people perform these rites of passages, and then as you're growing up, you know that, okay, I'm gonna make the passage one year. And in this particular zone, it involves lining up bulls. But first, all of the female friends and family members of the boy, soon to be man, get together and they are whipped by the men of the tribe. This is part of the ceremony. And the scars that are on the backs of the of the women, I mean, they stay there for the rest of their lives. They're kind of like a badge of honor to testify to the pain that they are willing to endure for the initiate. So if it's their son, initiate. I don't know if that's the right word. The person who's initiated.
I like initiate.
And you say, well, this is a sad byproduct of this thing that women are being whipped. But actually what I read said that it was a strange form of empowerment because the women are belittling the men who are whipping them and kind of
like talking trash to them
and saying, you're too feeble to whip me hard enough to hurt me. And they're not acting like they're being hurt. This is their part in the rite of passage.
Yeah.
That's just part of it. And then they bring out the bulls and they line them up. These are castrated bulls that are lined up side by side.
Steer. These are steer.
Okay, if you want to get technical. And they're lined up side by side. Like picture a bunch of bulls. I'm from the video I saw, we're talking like 5.
Mm-hmm.
And it's if you're trying to get them all bunched in together for a picture. Like, okay, steer, we're gonna take a nice group photo for your class. You need to get in a little bit closer. So they're all facing the camera, so to speak.
Right.
And there's people holding them in place. And then the person, the boy soon to be man is naked. Like just buck naked.
Yeah.
Or bull naked. The bulls are also naked.
The bulls are completely naked.
That. There's no bucks involved.
Yep.
And then he runs and he jumps up on the first cow.
Mm-hmm.
And then starts to pitter patter across them like Legolas on the top of snow to the other side. And then he falls down on the other side, and then people.
And that's it?
People cheer. Nope.
You're a man?
Nope. You got to do it 3 more times.
What is the risk involved?
You could
slipping between steer?
Slipping
steer
down.
slippage.
Yep. That is the.
You don't want to slip and get stuck between steer.
Right. If you complete the task, you're a man, and if you get steer slippage, I don't know what happens if they let you keep going.
Well, steer slippage when naked is probably a more serious business than like steer slippage when fully clothed.
I mean, there's a lot of pressure involved because it's not easy to balance barefoot on the top of cows who are just standing there. I mean, I assume they practice this in the privacy of their own pastures, but you've got your friends and relatives who are being whipped on your behalf.
Yeah, there's a lot of pressure here.
And then you're stripped down into nothing, and then you've got to balance on these bulls. I mean, we've jumped over a cow, but we weren't naked. And well, technically it was 2 cows.
It was. But you're going to tell that story.
But the cow was dead. And I didn't really consider it a rite of passage, but it was.
But it's a memory. It's a heck of a memory.
It's a great memory. So I'll consider it in retrospect. This is a form of rite of passage now that I know about it. And I think there was something instinctual within us that led us to try to do this. Just to give you some background, after school, I mean, this is like early high school, maybe. Mm-hmm. We definitely had our licenses. We were like 16 years old.
Really? You think we were that old?
I don't remember riding our bikes out there.
Down there.
There was a cow pasture that was adjacent to the golf course.
I always rode my bike down there.
Okay, the golf course that we would play on as kids with Ben Greenwood, our other friend, and we'd go across the creek to the cow pasture.
We've actually told this story on something before.
Yeah, we have.
Yeah.
We chased the cows.
See, again, this is why we don't just tell stories, because we've told you all the stories before.
But we would chase the cows, and it's just thrilling to chase cows. That does make you feel like you have power over a whole herd of beasts. It kind of makes you feel like a man. One day we go out there and we see in the distance there's a berm that's not usually there, and as we get closer, it is a dead cow laying on its side, and it is bloated.
Yeah, it's pretty nasty.
And it was really nasty because it was a mama cow who died while giving birth.
And the baby cow was halfway out.
Yeah, halfway out, and the baby.
This is a shocking thing.
The baby cow was also dead.
Yeah, this is a shocking thing to come up on.
So I remember as
a teenager,
there was a sense that we needed to kind of whisper, being in the presence of this dead cow and dead calf.
Yeah,
and it was pretty fresh, I would say. I don't remember it stinking.
It was a somber moment because it was almost like an introspective moment for us, and we sat there and kind of looked at each other and we talked quietly, and it was like, this is serious. Like,
did some forensics.
We've been out here chasing these cows for years, and now here this cow lays dead, having given birth, and died, and the new life died, like we were being overly poetic for like 15-year-olds or whatever we were. And then a couple of minutes passed and we start jumping over it.
Yeah, well, what happened was I remember the silence was broken with someone saying, "You think we can jump over it?" And then we just backed up and started running full speed and jumping over it like it was a hurdle.
Yeah, and we did successfully several times.
Because there was substantial risk and pressure, I would say.
You don't want to hit a bloated cow.
You don't want to land in the middle of the cow.
Yeah, you don't want that kind of slippage to happen. And we were not naked.
Maybe we should have been.
Yeah, it would have made it more interesting, I guess.
And that's why I'm still not a man, because I wasn't naked when that happened. But maybe there's something within us that was like, okay, there's risk here, so if we do it within the presence of each other, we're proving something. And that's kind of what's behind these rites of passages as we move on to the next one, that, you know, you're demonstrating bravery or an ability to endure pain.
Yeah.
And it's a demonstration, a willingness to... And there's a camaraderie of people have gone through these things, that then you're joining the ranks of people who've gone through it.
Yeah, and I make a couple of comments. I mean, number one, we're not, our role, our angle in talking about these things is not to judge them or try to endorse them and say that this is what we should be doing or they shouldn't be doing it or whatever. It's just to tell you guys about them. It wouldn't have a little fun talking about it. But also, yeah, this is these things only exist in more isolated cultures that are still kind of holding on to long time traditions, exactly for the reason that you were talking about. Because if you go to a certain tribe, like if you go to this next tribe, the Satere Mawe tribe in Brazil, you know that every man in this tribe, which is currently at 10,000 members, there was only 88 people in this in the 1970s.
Really?
But now there's 10,000 people in this tribe. You know that every man in this tribe has undergone this incredibly painful rite of passage that we're going to talk about. And that means something. It's like if I'm from North Carolina, if I meet somebody from Washington, I just know, okay, you're from the US also, but there's not a connection with, you did this thing where you stuck your hand inside the bullet ant glove.
So tell me about it.
So this is the bullet ant glove. Now,
I've heard a little bit of this. But.
This has been on a number of television shows, and there's a few YouTube videos showing people do this. So you may have seen this one. But this is essentially when this tribe the Satere Mawe tribe makes their young boys wear gloves filled with bullet ants while they dance for 10 minutes without flinching.
Bullet ants.
Yeah, so bullet ants have the most painful sting of any insect. Any insect. So, I mean, you're talking to like biggest bumblebee, craziest hornet you can imagine, worse than that. So this thing is a 4+ rating on the Schmidt Sting Pain Index, which is a thing. The Schmidt Sting Pain Index.
I'm so glad that there is a Sting Pain Index and that it's called the Schmidt Sting Pain because it makes it so difficult to pronounce.
Yeah, and I could just imagine how Schmidt figured this out. Schmidt just sat around and stung himself with multiple things, I guess. He was like, that's going to give this one a 4+. The locals call it the 24-hour ant, referring to the full day of pain that follows being stung. So here's what they do. They render the ants unconscious by submerging them in a natural sedative. And then hundreds of them are woven into a glove made out of leaves, which basically looks like a large oven mitt, stinger facing inward. So it's like you got all these ant stingers facing your hand, and then the ants begin to regain consciousness, and they slip the boy's hand into the glove. And then the goal of the initiation rite is to keep the glove on for a full 10 minutes.
10 minutes.
Now, let me just quickly give you something as a point of reference. You may have heard of the Australian comedy duo, Hamish and Andy. They did this. I don't know which one of them did this. There's a YouTube video. It's got about 6 million views of showing them do this. But one of them...
That's not enough views to do it.
Sticks his hand into the mitt and pulls it out almost immediately. Like he sticks it in there, he reacts, he pulls his hands out. And then for the next few hours, he is in intense, debilitating pain. Like he's lost to the world. Crazy. And the boys of the actual tribe, they put it in there for 10 minutes. And they don't just do it once.
What?
They will go through this ordeal a total of about 20 times over the course of several months or even years as part of the initiation rites to become a warrior. And so what they do, once you put your hands in there for 10 minutes, your hands, it's so painful you can't take it, right? They get around and you dance the way you know how sometimes like when we do something real painful on GMM,
like eating
you kind of
the
dance
Carolina Reaper.
You feel like you got to do something.
You got to at least walk
So
around.
they actually have a dance that is part of this. Like it's just built in. You get stung, you got your mitts on, and you do a dance with everybody. And then his hands are so overwhelmed with venom that his hands become paralyzed. But then once they start hurting again, you shake uncontrollably for a few days.
Your whole body shakes?
Yes.
Just tremors of pain.
Yeah, I mean, you'll be in intense pain for 24 hours, and then for the next couple of days after that, you'll still be having little shudders.
I wonder if it will kill you. I mean, I got to think that it could.
I'm sure
there's a risk of death.
Maybe somebody could have a reaction to it. But yeah, that's what they do. That's how they become men.
I mean,
I'd rather jump over some cows.
Yeah, the more intense the shared experience, the greater the effect, I think, on the community. You know, especially to become a warrior. I mean, you kind of want to pass a threshold of pain in order to be entrusted as like a warrior in your community. I mean, you think about Navy SEAL training, which has a reputation of being extreme, and you know they design everything so that you can drop out at any moment. They even encourage trainees all along the way. They're berating them. They're constantly giving them outs to get out of it because they want to weed people out. Because then they know that, you know, as hard as it was, you had every opportunity to check out, but those who made it through, there's a bond that, you know, I guess leads to effective wartime strategy.
Well, and you got to think that an interesting byproduct of this type of such an intense initiation ritual that you can't avoid, you've got to think, I don't know the statistics on this, that probably every person, every man at least, ends up doing it, which is an incredible thing to think. I mean, it says that in order to become a warrior, so I would think that the people who had not gone through this would be, oh, that's the guy that couldn't do the bullet ant thing. He refused to do it. In our culture, if you don't want to do something uncomfortable, you just don't do it. And there's no judgment. And that's fine. That's the way it is in our culture. It's a totally different thing in the Western world. But in this culture, it's like, you can't avoid this. You're on a straight trajectory towards the bullet ant glove if you're a male, and then you have to do it in order to get to the next stage. And that's an interesting dynamic. But you can't avoid it.
I would imagine that it's tempered by the fact that from a very young age, from your earliest memories, you're aware of this rite of passage, and it becomes something that you're conditioned to expect. So it's not like you're an Australian comedian who just decides 2 days earlier to do it.
Right.
You know, you spent your whole life being invested in this thing, your young life, and then finally this day is here. I'm looking forward to this. This means something to me and to my community. And you know, those are factors that can really tip the scales.
Large motivations.
You know, I mean, we tend to be motivated. I'm going to get into this vat of ice, and I'm very scared, but I'm going to do it because, A, it's entertaining. It's what the mythical beasts have come to expect, and you know, my livelihood is now attached to the being entertaining in this way. But I've done a lot of stuff that I would never do if cameras weren't rolling. I say that all the time.
Yeah.
But this goes.
Would you do this?
This is so much more meaningful. Would I do this?
Because this is the real question.
No,
a comedic duo has already done it.
He didn't do it as long as I will.
When I watched, really? You're going to go full 10 minutes?
I'm going to go 1 second longer than that guy.
When I watched this, it made me think, and I don't even want to say it out loud, but it just made me think that like, oh, I could totally see us doing a series like this where we go around and do all this ridiculous stuff. But then I just said, I should not think that thought because I just value comfort too much.
All right, let's weigh it against this next scenario that I got here. We've been to Kenya, Ethiopia, and Brazil, But now let's come back to North America, to North Dakota specifically, where the Mandan reside. That's the Mandan Native American tribe. Their exact origin and history is unknown, but ethnologists theorize they originated in the area of the mid-Mississippi River or the Ohio River valleys and migrated north to North Dakota between the 7th and 13th century. So that's your little background. This is a tough group. Let me ask you, if I dangled you, Rhett, from the ceiling with a rope.
Don't ever dangle me.
Dangled you from the ceiling with a rope under your armpits.
Okay, not bad.
And drove stakes into your chest and back. Not pieces of meat, just like pieces of like sharp wood.
Okay, that's the difference.
Do you think you would A, sign up for this at a young age, and B, keep a smile on your face the whole time?
Smile the whole time?
Smile the whole time.
I don't think I would be smiling at any time.
Well, if you wanted to be a leader of the Mandan tribe, you better be smiling pretty, buddy. Now,
wow,
this was a powerful,
that's intense.
Powerful religious ceremony of the Mandan people called Okipa. Okay, and it was the culmination of a 4-day ceremony performed annually during the summer, which basically retold the story of the creation of the earth from their perspective. Okay, so just picture a big tent with dancers inside performing, and there's the men of the village are fasting and praying and seeking visions. And the younger men were the ones who generally underwent torture to demonstrate their bravery.
Okay.
And that's this rite of passage in the Okipa. They had long wooden skewers pushed through cuts in their skin on their backs and chests.
Are these like kebab sticks? Or are they probably bigger?
Well, I'm looking at a picture here, and it just picture like mini spears. It's just like acupuncture on like a Native American level.
Like way beyond.
And then they string ropes up under their shoulders, under their armpits, and hang them from beams. And then their bodies are weighed down with buffalo skulls.
What?
Which are hung from more skewers that are thrust into their thighs and their calves.
Okay, now I can handle that.
And I mean, obviously the torment of this was extreme, but crying out was a sign of cowardice. You couldn't cry, you couldn't grimace. The ones who were best able to stand the pain became the leaders. If you're smiling, smiling Jack, he's the next leader.
So was that just a twist of your own, the whole thing about smiling, or was that actually part of it? Like the happier you seem while you did it?
I added the smiling twist.
Okay, but that probably would have been a nice touch.
Those who were best able to withstand the pain. So the one who could muster a smile was certainly the one who was a top-notch leader, at least according to my understanding.
I will say that I think that I've always thought that is that's a sign of somebody who's tough. Is like their pain doesn't register on their face.
Mm-hmm.
Like somebody who's really, really tough, like that you look at them and you're like, he doesn't seem like he's in that much pain. And then some people you look at them and you're like, their face looks like it's a sign of all the things that are going wrong in their body right now.
And then some people just have resting pain face.
Oh, really?
It's like, man, is he like barefoot stepping on broken bottles? No, that's just that's just the look on his face.
Resting painful face.
Resting pain face. It's got a cousin face, which we don't need to talk about. But this Okipa rite of passage is not performed anymore. I mean, it was suppressed by the U.S. government. So it was thought that the last ceremony was held between 1889 and 1890 on the Fort Berthold Reservation. So this ain't happening anymore, but I'm looking at a painting by George Catlin in 1832 of this thing. And it's just, I can't imagine just stepping in as a, kind of a researcher / artist and witnessing this from the outside, especially with a language barrier. It's like, what's going on? Are they being executed or something? No, they are becoming men. It's amazing.
It just makes me wonder, like, what would, again, I go back to, because we live in a culture where you can just get out of stuff that you don't like. Like, were there people who were like, I don't want to be a part of this, and then they became like an outcast?
I don't know, but I'd like to think that that there still was a to each his or her own type of a thing that they didn't.
But probably not.
I don't know.
It probably wasn't, man. That's probably not how it was. The Fulani people, you heard of those people?
No.
Well, can I interest you in a whipping match?
No, I don't think so.
Well, if you were a member of the Fulani people of Africa, I could. I'm talking about a couple of boys lashing each other with sharpened sticks. Now, my kids fight a lot. Mostly it starts as a game.
Mm-hmm.
And it usually ends with
somebody crying.
And listen, 11-year-old and a 6-year-old, you would usually think that the 6-year-old is the one that ends up crying, which is very often the case, but
not every time.
It's a tough 6-year-old.
Yeah. And do you give them sticks with like shards on the end?
I do not. It's all kinds of things, often pillows. But the Fulani people do take things a few steps further. A whipping match is basically a ritual in which two different boys they volunteer. They say, I'm ready to become a man. I'm ready for my whipping match. There's a interesting video on National Geographic that kind of shows this happening. And the sense that I get is that the Fulani people are a very widely dispersed people. They're not just like a small village that all live together. This is like a large group of people, and they have a lot of different villages, but they all do this ritual and these whipping matches. So they'll take a kid from one of the villages, and they'll take another kid from the other village, and they say like, my kid's ready, all right, let's put them together. So they pit two kids from two different villages against one another. And what they do...
So you got like hometown rivalry? Do they both win, or does only one of them gets to become a man?
Only one winner. Yeah, in the video that I watched...
But do they both win manhood at the end, whether you win or lose?
No. I don't know if the other dude has to go back and do it again. But here's what you're trying to do. You take your shirt off. You're not naked, but you don't have a shirt on. And you have, with the help of your father and your brothers and other men in your life, you've selected a stick and you've sharpened the end of it. And this is just like a 8-foot long just stick.
8-foot stick.
That can get, you get a lot of leverage with that kind of thing. And all these people come out to watch you. So the guy who goes first, one guy goes out into the middle and he puts his arms above his head.
Oh no, it's not a fight, they just take turns?
And then you get to hit the dude 3 times with your stick. And they hit them on the side, the ribs, and it reaches around and grabs the flesh off of the side of the front. It's just intense. I mean, there's a video on National Geographic, just intense. And so
historically, this has been done to prisoners across many societies, and it's
as
horrifying.
As a punishment.
It's a horrifying thing to think about, much less witness. But to witness it and then volunteer for it, wow.
So this is what happens. You inflict 3 whips, and then you have 3 whips inflicted upon you. And the crowd judges who took it better. So let me tell you right now, the video that I watched of these 2 kids who looked to be about 13, 14 years old, they both took it a whole lot better than I would have. I mean, there was so little flinching. There was no crying. I mean, and they got whipped hard. No crying, very little flinching, but it was like kind of obvious to the crowd that one kid had flinched less. And they come out and they reward him, and they throw talc powder all over you, and they put gold coins on your forehead. Really? I don't think the baby powder is worth it, honestly. But maybe the manhood, being considered a man, is.
Man.
So
I just feel sorry for him. But maybe that's just out of ignorance. Maybe it's just from my insulated perspective.
Man. It's a different culture. If you were to take, without doubt.
I don't understand MMA fighting. Like I can tell whenever I go to a restaurant, like we go to a sushi restaurant, that for some reason they always put MMA fighting on there. And I don't have cable. It just doesn't come on screens in my life. So I haven't developed an interest in it.
MMA fighting does not come on screens in your life.
And then, so when I see it at the sushi restaurant, which is just not a great place to see it, you know, there's
you don't need to be seeing
raw flesh on my plate. Why do I want to?
Yeah, that's a horrible combination.
I don't get it. I asked him to change it to basketball one time.
Yeah, basketball's not gross.
During the tournament. But I'm always struck as if, you know, having not seen MMA for a while, I'm like, man, this is brutal. But the thing that always gets me when I'm seeing it for the first time is that at the end, there's like a guy who taps out, and then there's a guy who wins, and there's no winner here, is the way that I feel about it. But the guy's so elated, and he's trained so hard for this, and he's, you know, it's not really that different, except he's 12 years old. And to me, that's kind of a big difference. Like, would we be watching MMA for 13-year-olds? That's kind of what this is.
You might, if you were in this culture. One of the interesting differences with this one is that it doesn't happen at a certain age. It's the ritual is conducted once a boy feels he is ready to become a man, which is an interesting. I wonder if that's always been the case. That 44-year-old
boy feels like he's ready.
So it is voluntary, but again, the same thing that you said. If you were to take 13-year-old Rhett and Link and make them have a whipping match against one another, that would be cruel and unusual, right? But for these guys who, this is what they know, this is a cultural thing for them, they just step right up to the plate and do it.
It does remind me of the 10-year-old Rhett and Link that would, whenever I'd like come over to a sleepover at your house, and we'd take the cassette tapes and we'd stuff papers in the top and we'd make recordings, ridiculous recordings, playing different characters. That was our form of YouTube way back in the 80s. But one of the other games we invented, we only played it one night, was you had this, Rhett had this ball, and it was like I don't even remember what kind of ball it was, but it was like a baseball-sized ball, but it was mushier. Mm-hmm. And then we decided,
I think it was the Incredible.
I don't know what that is. It was small. It was like a baseball-sized ball.
Yeah. The Incredible, I think that's what it's called, is a
bouncy.
It's a baseball designed for like kids. So it's like cloth and rubbery.
I remember it being slightly mushier than what I think that would be. But anyway, we decided to get on opposite sides of your room, which was a very small room. I mean, we're talking.
I cannot believe you're telling this story.
And then we would just we said, all right, we're going to throw the ball at each other's balls and see who can take it. Like, we'll take turns. I'm going to throw it at your balls and then see if you can take. I mean, we're fully clothed.
Yeah, fully clothed.
We're not like,
but we're
like tribesmen.
We're sitting across from each other
with our legs spread,
opposite sides of the room, rolling the ball at each other.
Yeah, we rolled it. That's right. We rolled the ball like bowling ball style. And just took who could, you know, it was another, we had to devise a test of manhood.
I haven't thought about this in a long time.
And then, so we're doing it, and I'm sure we're like groaning and laughing and giggling and being complete idiots like we still are.
And then
the door.
No, the first thing I hear is the sound of my father coming up the stairs. And my dad had a little bit of a quick fuse. So I knew that there was no like, hey guys, quiet down. It just went from hearing nothing to coming up the stairs.
Bam, the door swings open.
He opens the door, he's standing there, he's got on a V-neck white t-shirt, underwear, and his socks that he had worn to work, like navy socks, like pulled up a little bit.
He was a boxer, man. He was wearing boxers.
No, he wasn't.
He wearing briefs?
You picture him in wearing boxers. He never wore boxers.
I don't want to picture briefs in my mind. He was wearing briefs, huh? So he was like Walter White out in the desert. Yeah, exactly. Season 1 of Breaking Bad.
And then he just looks at you and says,
I know what he said.
He says, what the hell are you doing?
That's exactly what he said. And I remember we both just looked at him, and I was so afraid. Especially because I was thinking, what do you say? We were throwing a ball at each other's balls. I mean, there's nothing you can say. I mean, we're both spread eagle with a ball in our hand, giggling, and he busts into the room. It's like, he knows what we're doing. We're throwing a ball at each other's nuts.
And I was like, oh, nothing. We'll be quiet. And he was like, okay. And he just walked back downstairs.
I think when he opened the door in his anger and he said that, then he saw like, we were like, the configuration we were in, it's like, It's as if he was then thinking, you know what? I don't want to know.
I don't want to know. Exactly.
I don't even want to know.
But I think the larger observation here, besides the fact that I have no idea what impact this is going to have on us, the fact that you've told this story publicly now, is you're right. We invented a test of manhood. And if we were like isolated in like some part of the world and there was like us and like 50 other people, we might say, you know what? The way you find out if you're a man is you sit across from each other and you roll an Incrediball at each other's balls. That could be could be how things get started.
I think that's called a cult. I mean, I'm just saying, if we did it, it would be a cult.
But you see how these things get started, and then it's just like, my dad and my dad's dad and now me have all took the Incrediball to the balls.
Well, that brings me to an interesting one. This next one I have has an interesting backstory, which it's a legend which led to this rite of passage practice, which you may have seen on television on the different Nat Geo type scenarios, Discovery Channel, what have you. I lead a sheltered life, so I really hadn't seen this yet. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to talk to all of you out there who've never heard of this. But maybe you haven't heard of the legend that went into it. We're going to the southern part of Pentecost Island to Vanuatu, okay? Which a season of Survivor was there.
Yes.
So you know it's an awesome place if Survivor did a whole season there.
Right. Maybe.
Let me ask you a question to get into this one. Would you ever bungee jump, Rhett? Yes, no, or if cameras were there?
Yes, if cameras were there.
But no otherwise?
I don't think I would just do it for fun, no.
I agree. Would you ever bungee jump using Tarzan vines strapped to your legs instead of an actual bungee cord if cameras were there?
No, because I do know what you're talking about now, and I have seen this on the television.
100 feet in the air, Tarzan vines, and that's my terminology, strapped to their feet. That's not what they call it. It's called land diving, known as nagol, and it's done by the Vanuatu people as a ritual associated with the annual yam harvest. They don't do it for cameras. They don't do it for accolades. They do it for the yams.
Okay, that's a good. Yams are good.
And when you reach it, very
good for you.
Superfood. And when you reach a certain age, you get to enter into this practice of nagol.
Is it sweet potato casserole or is it just sweet potatoes?
It's yams. Okay, they make everything out of them.
Okay.
Here's the backstory. Legend has it.
Because if it's sweet potato casserole with marshmallows on top, I might do it for that.
Legend has it that a woman was dissatisfied with her husband, whose name was Tamale.
Likely story.
She was so dissatisfied with Tamale that she ran away from him into the forest, but Tamale pursued her, so she climbed a banyan tree, which is a tall tree in Vanuatu. Well, up he goes after her, climbing, so she ties lianas, which are vines, to her ankles and jumps to get away from him.
Smart.
She survives. You know, she invented bungee jumping. Legend has it. Her husband, in hot pursuit, jumps after her, but he misses the crucial step of tying lianas to himself.
That is important.
So he
pretty
died.
much the only important thing.
He died.
Okay, he died.
Splat.
Tamale died. I thought this was the origin story of tamales.
No.
But that's different.
No,
his name is Tamale.
Right, that's just it. So now, and the legend is that now the men, because they certainly perform this ritual annually now, that it originated, this land diving originated so that men would not be tricked again into, to follow the fate of Tamale. So the timing is good. Yam harvest is a dry season, which makes it a good time to build this huge tower. It's also the time of year when the lianas have the most elasticity, which is key. It's the natural bungee cord. It takes them between 2 and 5 weeks to build this tower, 20 to 30 men constructing it, cutting trees down to construct the body, clearing a site, removing rocks from the soil. I mean, a lot goes into this thing.
And they do this, they don't just leave the same structure up, they do it every time. They rebuild it.
Yeah, that's my understanding. And the lowest platform is about 10 meters.
Which is, 10 meters, that's high. That's like you jump into water off of 10 meters, and that's a scary thing.
Right. The highest platform near the top, we're talking 100 feet, which you can do the conversions. I'm mixing measurements here. During the jump, the platform supports snap on purpose, causing the platform to hinge downward and absorb some of the force. So they got this thing down to a science, and vines are selected by village elders and matched with each jumper's weight. So it's like an old guy who's got like a lot of experience, like you need this vine because you look to weigh 184 pounds.
Oh my goodness, not very precise.
It's just, he's just eyeing it. There's not a blackboard with some like calculations or some TI-82.
Yeah, there's
he
no
doesn't have one of those in his back pocket. Younger boys jump as a rite of passage, starting from the lowest platform, which 10 meters, we're talking like 2 stories high, jumping into this thing.
More than that.
10 meters? I mean, your son dies.
That's 3 stories.
3 stories? Well, they may start a little bit lower than that. And then, the event goes on. Men start jumping from higher and higher platforms. And the final man, jumps from 100 feet. Now, here's the thing. You've strapped these vines to your feet. You're bungee jumping off. Your head has to hit the ground in order for it to take.
In order for what to take?
The yams. In order for the yams to be blessed.
Oh, got it.
Your head has to hit the ground. So as you launch yourself off, you hope that whoever cut those vines cut them just right. If they're too short and your head doesn't hit the ground, yams aren't gonna be blessed.
You'll live, but the yams
if the vine is too long, and I'm talking 4 inches too long, you'll die, but the yams will be blessed.
Okay, so well, that's good to know. At least you don't die for nothing.
Right. So you become a man, you get to enter into this, and then you just keep doing it for the sake of the yams.
Now, the thing I watched...
Put that on a bumper sticker, by the way. Do it for the yams.
Do it for the yams? Or a t-shirt. I think the thing I watched about this, on one of those channels that shows stuff like this years ago, the impression I got in watching it was that it is very, very rare for someone to die doing this.
Well, I watched a YouTube clip of a guy, and he snap. The vine snaps. You see it snap, and he just hits the ground
from 100 feet.
And then everybody runs up to him, and he hit a. They built it on a slope, so when your head hits the ground, it's not just flat; it's on a slope.
You kind of roll,
and
that helped.
Bit. That helped because he just stood up and started cheering. So it kind of undermined a little bit.
Were the yams blessed?
That's
probably.
A good question.
Probably. I think that counts. If I'm the guy who's in charge, that counts.
I mean, that is a good question.
If I'm the guy who's in charge, we'd probably stop doing this and probably just get fertilizer. But you know what? Whatever.
You're not in charge.
I'm not in charge.
Do they have your email or your cell phone?
No, they do not.
Maybe that's why they haven't called you. They want you to be in charge. Okay. They just haven't called you.
And the thing is that you say elasticity is important, but from the videos that I've watched, they're not very elastic. We're not talking about actual elastic. We're not talking about bungee cords where the thing goes to 5 times its length or whatever. We're talking about a vine that may stretch a little bit because it was a little bit bent in one place.
I think it's cool that the platform gives away and adds that level of boinginess.
Yeah, boinginess is key.
The honed engineering that goes into this thing. I would love to go and watch it. I would certainly buy a ticket to watch.
But you wouldn't do it.
No, and I wouldn't stand right underneath them either.
This is one, I'm not saying I would do any of these, but this is one that, the yams are going to have to die. I'm not doing this. I'm not interested. I'll do the bullet ant before I do this one.
Will you do this next one?
I don't know. Let's
analyze.
Let's go through the details once more. The Métis hunting trials. The Métis tribe, I think I'm saying that right, is in Brazil. And a boy is not a man until he can participate in a hunt. Oh, okay, sure. He's got to hunt. No. You can't hunt unless we do a series of things to you. a series of unpleasant things.
Okay.
The first thing they do to the boy is they put poison into his eyes, which is supposed to improve his vision.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Got some poison in your eyes, they rub it in there, it's bitter.
Is this like a long-term positive effect and a short-term negative effect kind of?
Apparently, but that's just step one. The second step is they beat you and whip you. It's a series of beatings and whippings. I guess from the other guys that you're about to go out hunting with. And then lastly, you are injected with poison frog goop. They have...
Define frog goop.
You know, like poison frogs have like nasty poison on their skin and in these glands and stuff. And they
so you scrape it.
They get the poison off with
Squeeze
these
it.
wooden like needles. And then they inject you with this poison.
Oh my goodness.
And this poison is supposed to increase your strength and your endurance, but not until it has also caused projectile vomiting and intense diarrhea. They basically almost kill you.
I don't typically associate projectile vomiting and intense diarrhea with strength and endurance. But if you can exhibit strength and endurance while projectile vomiting and all of that, then you've earned a ranking higher than me on the man scale.
Well, I'm just trying to figure out,
which again doesn't count for much, I guess.
I'm trying to figure out the origin of this one, right? Because I have a feeling that they got together at one time and they were like, what are we gonna do to make sure a boy is a man before he goes hunting?
Take the worst things that exist in our environment and inject them into your person, your eyes.
Right, well that's where they ended up, but it was like one guy said, let's put the poison in his eyes. And everyone was like, that's a good idea. All right, let me write that down. Let's just beat him. Let's just beat him and whip him several times. Okay, hold on. Let me put that on the whiteboard.
Pencil it in.
Okay, what about those? We got those poison frogs. Let's take some of that poison. You know, Herb ate one of those frogs a few days ago, and he had projectile vomiting and intense diarrhea. Why don't we just take some of the poison and just inject it right in there? Okay, well all right, let's write this down. All right, who thinks that bitter poison in the eyes is a good idea? Everybody raise their hand. What about the beatings and the whippings? They all raise their hand. And the frog, they all raise their hand. Okay, we'll do all of it.
Yeah, it's like they were having a brainstorming session, and then at the end,
there were no wrong answers.
They forgot that they were only going to choose one, and they just they like slept on it, went back to the whiteboard, and said, "Oh, it's worked. The work's done."
And of course, the men came up with it because they were like, "We already hunt." You know, obviously they're the ones who came up with
this.
Not the
ones who
boys.
came up
There were
with
no
it.
boys in the room at the time. Like, hold on, can we just do one of these? So that's what it takes to be a man and a hunter in the Métis tribe in Brazil.
I'm not signing up for that one either. I don't think I'm signing up for any of these. I mean, in retrospect, you know, if we analyze our touch points for like throwing stuff at our own reproductive organs or jumping over dead cows, it's like we're grasping at manhood, Rhett.
Well, I would go as far as to say that we're not men. I mean, I would go as far as to say that by the standards, if we were to go and hang out with any of these people groups, we would not be considered men.
What makes a man, Mr. Lebowski? I think about that line. That and a pair of testicles. I always felt like getting my own car is the closest, like this is a commentary, perhaps a sad one. It's like getting my own car was a rite of passage. You know, there's independence associated with
Definitely. And at age 16 is where we come from.
Right. So it's a little bit older. It's interesting today, there are lots of 16-year-olds who could care less about getting a car because in the digital age, I'm told, it is just not that much of getting a car is not arriving because you've traveled the world in the internet. There's something psychological there. The trend of kids not getting cars, but I will say that at least for us, it was a huge deal. That was the rite of passage. More than jumping over the cow.
You know, I know kids these days who do not immediately get their license when they're eligible. But for me, it was like October 11th, my birthday.
Oh, you were in line.
I'm at the DMV. Like I've been thinking about this day for years. I cannot relate. I cannot relate to why you would be like, I'll do that. I'll wait. I'll wait to get my license. I'm just saying I'm giving you my perspective. I'm not prescribing anything.
No.
But for me, it was
shooting a gun with your dad. I think that there's something to that. When I turned 16, we had the big birthday party. My dad cooked a pig at my Aunt Tc's house.
Right.
I was one of the last ones to turn 16, so everyone had their own car. And then I remember I got in my truck, my 1987 Nissan pickup.
Yeah. Brooks and Dunn license
old and
plate.
beat up at the time, didn't have the license plate on it yet.
No, it does in my mind.
I listened to some Charlie Daniels, and we drove around. And I remember we had the party, and they were like, what are we gonna do? It's like, we're gonna drive around. We have the power now. We have this autonomy.
Go anywhere we want,
now
any road.
And then everyone got into their own car, and there was like no one was together anymore. We were just like we're like a parade going down country roads, it was
Caravanning
into the rest of our lives.
And loving every minute of it. I mean, when I got my license, because I got it a little bit earlier than you, I'm a little older.
October before June.
I picked you up, and we just went around some dirt roads.
Oh, it was exhilarating.
Omega. We were in the Oldsmobile Omega. We're in this like 1981 sedan, going around on dirt roads. Why? Because we could.
Because we were men, right? And then you get married or you have children. Those are milestones that say, well, maybe now I'm a man. Like I'm responsible for other people's lives, like these kids who need to be fed. I feel more mannish now because I feel like if I fail, somebody could die. And
people are depending on you now.
Right, but there was, I would have stepped in that more confidently if I had ingested frog poison or balanced on some cows in front of my loved ones who had been whipped.
It would be more definitive. It was
definitive.
Definitely more definitive.
I do think, and I think this is an application, at least for myself. I'm going to noodle on this, okay? So I'll put this out there for food for thought. As parents of kids who are approaching, they're in adolescence. I mean, I got a 12-year-old daughter, and it's not. I'm talking about both of them becoming adults. It's not just about being a man, but getting closer to an adult.
Right.
Creating something special for each of my children, and I know people who have done this. It's kind of like a rite of passage in a way that it's like, okay, this weekend is about you're 13 or you're 16 or whatever, creating an experience that they can kind of hold on to. That there's something written, and there's
I love
there
the
doesn't
idea.
have to be bleeding involved.
But I mean, obviously, as we think about it, in 2015, United States
or pain doesn't have to be pain.
We're gonna like create like a cool camping trip and a plaque or something. But what if we do break out the bullet ant glove or something like a mild version of that?
Well,
we'd be like taken to jail, man.
Or what about like an ice bath? Like that was traumatic for me on
ice
GMM,
bath
but
is not bad.
I think that's a good one. I think a heartfelt letter. Maybe a signet ring. That would be cool.
I think something that is physically challenging could signify something. So like
a whitewater rafting trip.
That would be fun. But I'm talking about like.
Well, I'm thinking about I want to do it too.
Making it to the top of Half Dome or something like that. Just something that's difficult.
That's good.
I feel like we should create. You know what we should do? Link. This is what we should do. It's probably already been done. We should create a curriculum that's a rite of passage for boys and girls.
We could create experiences
everywhere, and it's just different rites of passage that you sign up for with your kids, and they do it, and then we make a YouTube channel. We don't have to do the YouTube channel part.
Well, there is a website. This is not a plug. I just found it. It's called ExtremeSealExperience.com.
Extreme SEAL Experience?
Yeah, where you go through Navy SEAL training, trained by real Navy SEALs instructors, and you like go through the whole thing. It's in Virginia, And one of the frequently asked questions is, will I die? So I'm not sending my kids to this, but there are people who sign up for this type of stuff. Extreme Celix, they're not the only one who does it, but that's just the one that I found. But okay, so that's for us to noodle on. I think as we're shutting down this ear biscuit, hopefully we've given you some things to think about. What makes a man or a woman? I think that, like we said at the top.
Yeah, we want to reemphasize this, that for those of you who thought that we were leaving women out on purpose, we were not. We made a decision, since we were once boys, now we consider ourselves men, that we would focus on the rites of passage traditionally seen as boys becoming men. We weren't excluding the women because they're women. We were just deciding to focus on the men because we're men. Now, in fact, in doing a little bit of research for this,
because I certainly think about my daughter Lily, who's 12, and like
some of the things
idea,
some of the things that
great ideas.
Some of the things that the women have had to go through are just, unfortunately, horrible things that they've had to go through, and there's not really any reward on the back end. It isn't like, oh, now you're a woman necessarily. It's just, abuse. But I think, with in our culture, it's like giving our kids, all of them, an opportunity to have some sort of formative experience, as opposed to just trying to look back on their life and trying to figure out what it is that helped them transition to the next stage of life. But something definitive. Want to figure it out.
So as we work on that, we welcome your input, not only about that question, but about this episode in general. Let us know at Rhett and Link, #earbiscuits, what you thought about this episode, and feedback for future episodes. Also, make sure you leave a review on iTunes. That's always helpful. If you're on SoundCloud, you were able to comment along with us, so your comment correlates to a specific time in the conversation if you want to check that out. But I think that's it as far as what we need them to do, right?
That's all we need you to do.
I need you to become men and women.
If you want to go,
unless it's not time,
bungee jump on some vines, or stick your hand into a bullet ant glove, or jump over some cows, you can do that too. Maybe you've been inspired to take a specific application for one of these things.
Do not mention us in association with your decision to do it.
Do not mention us, but please film it. #earbiscuits.
Don't do it. The music's been playing for a while, so they've already, hopefully they clicked away before you invited them
before they heard that.
do something.
Yep. Good.